Carol, this is really astonishing reporting tonight. And I have to ask you, it's often said that the Washington Post has been publishing the first draft of history for a very long time now. Did you feel you were holding history in your hands as you were turning in this story tonight?
Well, I have to say we were extremely careful and cautious as we approached hitting the publish button, because we know how this story will be read. We know how closely it will be read, as all of our stories are. We don't want any error. But also in this instance, Lawrence, I think you do intuit something important, and that is, while there's been a lot of swirl of investigative activity by the Department of Justice, this is the first time that we've known for certain that they are eyeing the former president of the United States. And it's no small thing, because, you know, lots of presidents, former and current, have been investigated, but no former president has been prosecuted by the Department of Justice ever, despite substantive evidence of crimes on the part of some. And when we write this piece, we're saying something significant about our knowledge, but we're also saying something significant about the precedent that is being set by the Department of Justice here today.
So the Washington Post published this subpoena yesterday, showing that what they're interested in, among other things, is any communication to, from, or about Donald Trump, agents of Donald Trump. I mean, anything involving Donald Trump. If you've communicated about it, they want to know that. That subpoena now, framed in your article tonight, along with the information about Mark Short, these two grand jury witnesses who were just there, and others apparently that you're aware of, who have been asked many questions about Donald Trump. How would you describe the level of focus on Donald Trump in some of the grand jury testimony?
You know, here is a moment where I'd like to say kudos to my colleagues on this byline along with me: Devlin Barrett, who covers the Department of Justice; Josh Dawsey, who covers nearly everything; Spencer Chu, who covers the U.S. Attorney's Office. All of them with me plied into this territory for many, many days to try to unearth what these details. And what the team learned was that so much of particularly Mark Short's conversation with the grand jury was dominated by what did Trump say, then what did Trump do, what did Trump tell his lawyers, then what was Trump's reaction to that. And that description over and over again of the grand jury prosecutor, who's not asking for a fishing expedition, right? A grand jury is when a prosecutor is asking questions they know they need the answer to in preparation for trial, in preparation for prosecution. And so the significance of this goes way, way up when a prosecutor said, "So tell me what the former president said about that." That dominant feature of the grand jury also took us aback, that questioning. If this had been an FBI agent and a 302 in which an agent asked somebody a bunch of questions about Donald Trump, it would be just slightly less dramatic because the agent's trying to learn things as they go. In this case, we're in prep for prosecution.
How many grand juries are at work now? There's been a grand jury in place that has been operating, for example, on the actual insurrectionists and people actually attacking the Capitol. Grand jury investigation involving targets like that. Is this a separate grand jury involving this higher level of target?
You could be my editor, Lawrence. So that answer I don't have, and I'm sad to say it. My sense is that this would be distinct grand juries, that the rioting to trespasser, to domestic extremist charges are being handled in one, and that this work starts anew this year with a fresher jury. But to be fair, I don't know for certain.
So we have all, sitting out here, had the impression, some of us more confidently than others, I haven't been very sure about this, that the January 6th committee is running far ahead of the Justice Department in terms of investigating this arena. You have now jumbled that impression because you are now showing us the Justice Department running ahead of the January 6th committee on some of this.
Well, yes and no. I think it's right to say that the January 6th committee put intense pressure on the Department of Justice and its probe. But it's also accurate and news to me, frankly, when I learned it, that the phone records that the Department of Justice sought and ultimately obtained in late April was before these, high pressure hearings. Again, there's one more wrinkle, as I'm sure you know, Lawrence, because you've been working on this yourself for so long. The committee, before they began the hearings, the Congressional Committee, interviewed so many witnesses. So just based on the witnesses, the transcripts, the evidentiary material they've taken on board, they're loads and loads ahead of the Department of Justice on that front. And actually, some of that testimony under oath, I'm led to believe the Department of Justice will be making good use of. In other words, it will be purposeful for them as an investigative tool as they proceed. In other words, they don't have to re-interview a ton of people unless they want to bring people in for the grand jury to make sure the grand jury hears the full story. But those transcripts are really gold for the Department of Justice, and the January 6th committee is so light years ahead of them in terms of gathering that roadmap.
Carol, as you were gathering information about what was included in the grand jury testimony, what piece of it struck you the most as focusing most clearly on Donald Trump? Is there an Oval Office moment that the grand jury is studying most closely?
I think it would be skewing the audience's impression about what we know and don't know, to focus on two grand jury appearances, that of two very senior Pence aides that we personally know about, that we know the details of. It would be unfair to say from that we can conclude that the Department of Justice is focused overwhelmingly on how Trump pressured Pence, bullied Pence, tried to get Eastman to agree to push an effort for fake electors, because we don't know about all the other willing grand jury witnesses who come in and said, hey, if you subpoena me, I'll be happy to tell you what happened. We don't know everything yet, and I would just say stay tuned.